Strength is often mistaken for force, noise, urgency. Yet in the ancient systems of warriors, strength was something quieter, almost invisible. It lived beneath motion, beneath breath, beneath the trembling impulse to prove oneself. True power did not arrive through effort alone, but through the discipline that removed what was unnecessary. This is the story of a warrior who did not understand that. He trained harder than others, moved faster, pushed his body until pain became familiar. But beneath the armor of effort lived fear. Fear of weakness, fear of stillness, fear of being seen without motion. His strength looked impressive, yet it fractured under pressure. His spirit was loud, his presence scattered. An old mentor watched him in silence. In ancient Japan, silence was not emptiness, it was refinement. In Stoic thought, mastery was not control of the world, but governance of the self. Across these traditions ran one shared truth. Effortless strength is never accidental. It is built through an unseen discipline that reshapes the ego before it sharpens the blade. This parable follows a path of unlearning. From noise to quiet, from tension to presence, from fear-driven effort to grounded mastery. Not the story of becoming stronger, but of becoming unnecessary to struggle. Strength, when misunderstood, becomes a burden. The warrior did not lack discipline. He woke before dawn. He trained until the ground beneath his feet darkened with sweat. Steel rang against steel, again and again, as if repetition alone could silence the unrest inside him. But every movement was heavy. His shoulders carried tension even at rest. His jaw remained clenched long after the blade was sheathed. Breath came shallow, hurried, as though time itself were an enemy. He believed this was commitment. He believed this was the price of strength. In the ancient system that shaped him, effort was sacred, but presence was forgotten. He moved as many warriors do when fear disguises itself as ambition. Each strike carried an unspoken plea. See me, acknowledge me, confirm that I am enough. The ego demanded proof, and the body obeyed with violence against itself. Victories came. They always do, but they felt thin, hollow, as if the moment the opponent fell, something inside him collapsed as well. Defeats, on the other hand, burned deeper than wounds. They lingered, they echoed, not because of pain, but because they threatened his identity. Modern psychology has a word for this state: cognitive interference. When the mind is split between action and self-judgment, performance fractures. Ancient warriors understood this without naming it. A divided spirit cannot generate clean strength. Yet the warrior did not know this. He only felt the strain. Fear followed him like a second shadow. Not fear of death, he had already made peace with that, but fear of stillness. When movement stopped, thoughts grew loud. Doubt sharpened. The question he avoided rose again. Who am I without effort? So he kept moving. The mentor watched from a distance. No correction, no praise, no instruction. In Zen tradition, the greatest teaching is often restraint. The mentor understood something the warrior could not yet see. Interference cannot be argued away. Ego must be exhausted, not confronted. Days passed, then weeks. The warrior trained harder, faster, longer. His body adapted, but his spirit tightened. Subtle mistakes appeared, overreaching, rushed timing, wasted motion. Not from weakness, but from excess. Strength, pushed beyond presence, becomes clumsy. The mentor remained silent. Silence in ancient systems is not neglect. It is pressure without force. It allows a man to collide with himself. One evening, after a session that ended in frustration rather than fatigue, the warrior finally noticed something new. Standing alone, breath ragged, muscles trembling, he realized the enemy he had been striking all along had never raised a blade. It was inside him. Still, he did not yet understand. Understanding comes later. First comes exposure. The chapter does not end with insight, only with exhaustion. Because before strength can become effortless, effort itself must reveal its limits. And it is in this exhaustion that the mentor finally prepares to introduce the first true weapon, not steel, but silence. Exhaustion has a way of telling the truth. Not the loud truth of failure, but the quiet truth that effort alone cannot carry a man forever. The warrior began to notice moments between movements, small pauses where the breath caught, where the body hesitated before obeying the next command. These moments frightened him more than any opponent. In them, control loosened, and where control loosened, fear surfaced. Ancient teachers warned of this moment. When effort reaches its peak, the ego panics. It senses the edge of its authority. The warrior mistook this fear for weakness. So he doubled down. He tightened his grip, accelerated his strikes, forced precision instead of allowing it. The result was predictable. Tension multiplied. His shoulders rose higher. His breathing grew erratic. The blade arrived a fraction too early, then too late. Timing, the soul of combat, slipped away. Modern neuroscience would describe this as overactivation of the prefrontal cortex. Too much conscious control disrupts instinctive coordination. The body knows what to do, but the mind refuses to get out of the way. The ancient system had a simpler diagnosis. The warrior was trying to own strength rather than be it. One morning before sunrise, the mentor finally spoke. Not with instruction, but with a question. Why are you always in a hurry? The words struck harder than correction. The warrior answered without thinking, because if I slow down, I will fall behind. The mentor nodded once, no approval, no disagreement. Behind what? Silence returned. That silence was different. It pressed inward. It stripped away momentum and left the warrior exposed to himself. For the first time, he did not rush to fill it. He realized something unsettling. Every movement he made was aimed at the future, the next strike, the next victory, the next proof of worth. He was never here. His body stood on the path, but his spirit sprinted ahead, chasing an image of mastery that never arrived. This is how effort becomes endless. Stoic philosophy warned of this trap. When action is severed from presence, the mind lives in anticipation or regret, never in command of the moment where power actually exists. The mentor did not explain this. He simply said, "Tomorrow you will not train." The warrior protested. Discipline demanded consistency. Strength demanded repetition. The mentor responded, "You will come. You will stand. You will do nothing." That night, the warrior slept poorly. The idea of stillness disturbed him more than pain. Without movement, there would be no distraction. Without exertion, no justification. Morning came. He stood where he always trained. The air was cold, the ground unmarked by motion. Time passed, slowly, painfully. At first his mind screamed, then it negotiated, then it accused. And finally it tired. In that fatigue, something loosened. His breath deepened on its own. His shoulders dropped without command. He felt his weight settle into the earth instead of hovering above it. For the first time, effort receded, not replaced by weakness, but by an unfamiliar calm. The mentor watched. This was not rest. This was the beginning of discipline. Not discipline as punishment, but discipline as alignment. The warrior did not yet know it, but the heaviest burden had already begun to lift. With effort exposed and silence introduced, the next chapter opens where fear can no longer hide inside stillness itself. Silence does not arrive gently. It confronts. When the mentor removed movement from training, the warrior felt stripped of identity. No strikes to measure progress, no sweat to justify effort, no opponent to absorb frustration, only breath, only weight, only time. At first he stood rigid, body present, mind fleeing. Thoughts surged like untrained soldiers, memories of failure, imagined futures, comparisons, judgments. The ego, deprived of motion, began to speak louder. This is why silence feels like weakness to the undisciplined mind. It exposes what effort conceals. The mentor did not intervene. He understood a truth preserved across ancient systems. Awareness cannot be taught while noise dominates perception. Zen monasteries, Stoic retreats, and warrior codes all use stillness not as rest, but as refinement. Stand, the mentor said. Do not fix, do not improve, observe. The warrior hated this instruction. It offered nothing to do, only something to see. Minutes stretched. His legs trembled, not from exertion, but from resistance. Breath climbed into his chest, shallow and defensive. Shoulders crept upward again. Jaw tightened. These were habits he had never noticed before, masked by constant motion. Modern science confirms what the ancients sensed intuitively. The nervous system reveals itself in stillness. Microtensions surface when the body is no longer distracted by action. The warrior was beginning to see his own unconscious armor. Fear whispered, "You are losing sharpness." But something unexpected happened. As the minutes passed, the mind began to slow, not by force, but by fatigue. Thoughts repeated, lost urgency, then faded. In their absence, sensation sharpened. The sound of wind through trees, the subtle sway of balance, the rise and fall of breath without command. Presence entered quietly. The mentor spoke again. "Where is the enemy?" The warrior searched the clearing. There was none. Then why are you tense?" The question landed deeper than the first. In silence, the warrior began to recognize wasted motion, not just physical, but emotional. Anger held long after its use expired, anticipation pulling him out of the moment, fear tightening muscles before danger arrived. This was the ancient lesson. Most strength is lost before action begins. Stoic discipline called this unnecessary disturbance. Zen called it grasping. Modern psychology calls it cognitive load. Different languages, same truth. Strength leaks through excess. The mentor guided him through reduced movement. One step, one breath, one strike, performed so slowly it felt unnatural. Every tremor became visible, every imbalance undeniable. There was no hiding. At first, the warrior felt diminished, then clearer. He noticed that when breath settled, movement required less force. When attention narrowed, timing improved. When ego loosened, the body responded faster, not slower. Fear, once loud, began to thin, not gone, but understood. Silence was not empty, it was precise. And for the first time, the warrior sensed that strength was not something to be added, but something buried beneath layers of unnecessary effort. His spirit, long clenched, began to soften without breaking. With silence sharpening perception, the path now demands something more difficult than effort, trusting presence under pressure. As silence became familiar, it grew heavier. Not because it demanded more, but because it demanded honesty. The warrior could no longer escape himself through speed or intensity. Every subtle reaction surfaced, the flinch before imagined impact, the breath held at moments of uncertainty, the tightening of the hands when control felt threatened. These were not techniques to correct, but signals to understand. The mentor watched closely. "Do not remove tension," he said, "see it." This instruction contradicted everything the warrior believed about discipline. He had been trained to eliminate weakness, suppress fear, dominate discomfort. Yet ancient systems understood a paradox modern science now confirms. Suppression strengthens what it resists. Fear, when ignored, embeds itself deeper in the nervous system. Standing in silence, the warrior felt fear arise, not dramatically but quietly. A subtle anxiety when balance wavered, a flicker of doubt when movement slowed. Instead of reacting, he stayed. Breath deepened. The sensation passed. Something shifted. The mentor explained, "Fear survives in noise. In silence, it has nowhere to hide." This was not philosophy, it was physiology. Neuroscience describes this as habituation. When the body is exposed to a stimulus without threat or escape, the nervous system recalibrates. The warrior's body was learning safety within stillness. Presence became a regulator. Movement resumed, but differently. Each action emerged from stillness instead of urgency. The blade no longer announced itself. It arrived. Force was reduced. Impact increased. Efficiency replaced aggression. The warrior felt lighter, not weaker. Ego resisted quietly. It missed effort's spectacle, missed the identity of the struggler, but it no longer dominated. It began to serve. This was the convergence of Zen and Stoic mastery. Act without disturbance, perform without attachment, engage fully without excess. The mentor now introduced pressure, not through intensity but unpredictability, sudden commands, pauses, interruptions. The warrior was not told when to move, only to remain present. At first, old habits returned. Tension spiked, breath caught. Then he noticed it sooner, released faster. Recovery replaced reaction. Modern performance psychology calls this adaptive resilience, the capacity to return to baseline quickly under stress. Ancient warriors called it composure. Strength was reorganizing itself. One evening, as the sun fell low, the mentor asked the warrior to strike, not a target, not an opponent. "Strike the space," he said. Confused, the warrior hesitated. "Without intent," the mentor continued, "without proving." The warrior raised the blade. No tension, no expectation, just breath and presence. The strike moved through him, not from him. Clean, silent, complete. For the first time, effort disappeared entirely. The warrior stood stunned, not by power, but by ease. This was the hidden discipline revealed. Silence does not weaken strength. It removes what interferes with it. What remains is natural, precise, and undeniable. The mentor bowed, not in praise, but in recognition. "You are beginning to walk," he said, "but the path will now test you where silence is hardest to keep." The warrior understood. Stillness is easy alone. Mastery is revealed in motion, under pressure, without resistance. With silence internalized, the next chapter forces the warrior to carry presence into action, where effort once ruled. The first sign of transformation was not power, it was quiet. The warrior's movements no longer announced themselves. There was no preparatory tension, no visible gathering of force. Action arose from stillness, the way breath follows breath, naturally, without argument. Where he once rushed, he now waited. Where he once braced, he now aligned. The mentor observed a body no longer at war with itself. This is the hidden threshold few cross, when discipline stops feeling like control and begins to feel like order. Ancient systems were precise about this distinction. Control requires constant effort. Order sustains itself. The mentor spoke as they walked the path at dawn. "Effort creates strength for a moment," he said. "Order creates strength that lasts." The warrior listened differently now. Not with hunger, but with receptivity. Words landed without resistance. Training shifted again, not harder, truer. Movements were slowed to the edge of discomfort. The warrior was instructed to feel where motion initiated, not how it looked. Each action began with breath, then weight, then intention. When intention arrived too early, the movement fractured. When breath led, the body followed cleanly. Modern science names this interoceptive awareness, the ability to sense internal signals and coordinate action accordingly. Elite performers cultivate it unconsciously. Ancient warriors trained it deliberately. The mentor demonstrated a step, a turn, a strike. No flourish, no strain, yet the air seemed to part in anticipation. The warrior felt it, not as intimidation, but as clarity. "This is the ancient system," the mentor said. "Not techniques, but sequence. Body, breath, attention. When these align, ego becomes unnecessary." The warrior felt the truth of this in his own form. His center of gravity dropped. Movements required less correction. Recovery after action was immediate. Fatigue no longer lingered. Strength circulated instead of leaking. Then came the test. Not an opponent, but pressure. The mentor altered the environment without warning. Sudden commands, interruptions mid-movement, tasks layered unpredictably. In the past, this would have triggered tension. Now, the warrior felt something else. Space. Where fear once narrowed perception, presence widened it. He noticed more without reacting to all of it. Decisions emerged rather than being forced. Psychology calls this flow, a state where self-consciousness dissolves and performance peaks. But flow is not accidental. It arises when challenge meets internal order. The warrior was entering it deliberately. Ego surfaced briefly, seeking credit, wanting acknowledgement. The mentor ignored it, as ancient teachers always have. "Do not attach," he said. "Attachment collapses space." The warrior exhaled. Ego softened again. This was the shift from discipline as punishment to discipline as devotion. He no longer trained to conquer weakness. He trained to preserve alignment. Strength was no longer chased. It followed, yet the mentor remained unsatisfied. "You can move in peace," he said. "Now you must remain peaceful when peace is threatened." The path was narrowing. True mastery, the warrior sensed, would not be tested in training, but in uncertainty. With internal order established, the final trial approaches, where presence must hold under pressure without effort or collapse. The test arrived without ceremony. No announcement, no preparation. At dawn, the mentor led the warrior beyond the familiar training ground, down a narrow path where the forest thickened and sound diminished. The air grew colder. Uneven stones shifted underfoot. This was not a place of combat, but of instability. "Walk," the mentor said. That was all. The warrior stepped forward. His body adjusted without instruction, weight distributed, breath deepened, awareness widened. He did not hurry to complete the path. He stayed with it. Then the mentor disrupted him. A sudden call from behind, a stone tossed across his vision. A sharp command issued mid-step. Each interruption tested the same thing. Would tension return? In the past, it would have. Now the warrior noticed the impulse and did not obey it. The body responded, but without panic. He yielded to disturbance without losing structure. This was the lesson of yielding without collapsing. Ancient systems prized this above brute strength. A rigid structure breaks, a soft one dissolves. Mastery lives between. Modern biomechanics confirms it. Structures that absorb force through alignment endure. Those that resist blindly fail. The mentor pressed further. He introduced doubt. "Are you certain you're ready? Do you believe this calm will survive real threat?" The words aimed at the old fracture, the need to prove. The warrior felt it stir, a tightening in the chest, a desire to respond, to demonstrate. He let it pass. This was new. The mentor nodded once, almost imperceptibly. "You are no longer arguing with yourself," he said. "That is strength." They stopped at the edge of the forest. The world opened. Wind moved freely. Light shifted across the ground. The mentor faced him. "Effortless strength is not the absence of effort," he said. "It is effort placed exactly where it belongs." The warrior understood. Effort had not disappeared. It had been refined, directed inward, not wasted outward. This was the ancient system in full. Discipline organizes the inner world so action can remain simple. The warrior bowed, not in submission but in alignment. For the first time, he did not feel like a student waiting to become something. He felt present, complete in the moment, yet open to continuation. The mentor turned away. "Your training ends here," he said. The warrior felt no fear at the words, only responsibility. To walk the path without guidance. To maintain presence without silence enforced. To embody mastery without performance. As the mentor disappeared down the path, the warrior stood alone, not tense, not relaxed. Aligned, he took one step forward, then another. Effortless. The transformation was complete, not because he had gained something, but because nothing remained in the way. And so the warrior steps into the world, where effortless strength must now exist without instruction, only presence. The world did not know the warrior had changed, but it felt it. He walked into places where tension once lived, crowded roads, uncertain encounters, moments thick with unspoken threat, and something shifted before words were exchanged. Conversations slowed, voices softened, aggression lost momentum. This was not dominance. It was gravity. Ancient texts warned against seeking this effect. Those who chase presence never find it. Presence emerges only when nothing is being chased. The warrior no longer measured himself against others, Not because he felt superior, but because comparison no longer informed action. His attention stayed rooted where power actually lives, the present moment. Neuroscience would describe this as a regulated nervous system. When the body rests in coherence, others subconsciously respond. Calm entrains calm. Order invites order. The ancients simply called it being centered. He encountered conflict, not dramatic but real, a challenge to his boundary, a test of restraint. In the past, ego would have leaned forward, eager to assert. Now he felt the impulse rise, register, and settle. Fear did not vanish, it clarified. Fear became information instead of command. This was the final refinement the mentor had prepared him for, not the elimination of fear, but its integration. Stoic discipline taught this plainly. Emotions are signals, not rulers. Zen practice mirrored it. Observe without attachment. The warrior responded without haste, voice steady, posture open, words few. The situation resolved without escalation. Strength had spoken without raising its voice. Later, standing alone, he reflected, not with pride, but with precision. He saw clearly now, mastery was never about control over others. It was governance of inner weather. The mentor's final lesson echoed, though no words were spoken. Effortless strength is maintained, not achieved. The warrior returned to silence, not enforced but chosen. Daily stillness, measured movement, attention refined like a blade sharpened slowly, evenly, without drama. This was humility, not submission but accuracy. Knowing where effort belongs, knowing when it does not. The path stretched forward endlessly. No finish, no title, only practice. And that was enough. Because mastery, he understood, is not a state. It is a way of standing inside each moment. Yet the path asks one final question. Can effortless strength remain when no one is watching? When no one is watching, the truth remains. The warrior learned this not in conflict, but in solitude. In the early hours before the world stirred. In the quiet routines that no longer required discipline to enforce them. He rose without resistance. He stood without instruction. He breathed without correction. Effort had dissolved into rhythm. This is where many fail after transformation, when external pressure fades and only internal integrity remains. Ancient systems warned of this stage. Mastery that depends on recognition collapses in isolation. The warrior felt the absence of the mentor most here, not as loss, but as responsibility. The path no longer corrected him, it reflected him. He returned to the practices that built him. Silence first, movement second, reflection always. Ego surfaced occasionally, not as a tyrant, but as a signal. He acknowledged it, redirected it, continued. Ego had not been destroyed. It had been trained to serve function instead of identity. Modern psychology would call this self-regulation, the ability to monitor internal states without becoming entangled. The ancients saw it as character. Fear, too, remained. But it no longer distorted perception. It sharpened it. Fear indicated where attention was required, not where retreat was necessary. This was the final synthesis. Body, mind, and spirit moved as one system, ancient in design, timeless in application. The warrior understood now why the old masters spoke in paradox, why strength was described as softness, why mastery was invisible. Effortless strength cannot be displayed. It can only be felt. The mentor appeared one final time, not in person, but in memory. Not with words, but with posture. A quiet acknowledgement across time. No approval was needed. The warrior stepped forward into the world again, not to teach, not to dominate, not to prove, but to live aligned. His presence left traces, not impressions. Those who encountered him felt steadier without knowing why. This was the highest transmission, not instruction, but example. The path never ends, but the foundation was complete. And so the story closes where it began. Not with force, but with stillness. Not with noise, but with silence refined into strength. Effortless strength is not a gift. It is the reward of disciplined silence, mastered ego, and unwavering presence on the path.